All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dids in the Dugout. This time I'm joined by my buddy Hitch, and we're going to do our weekly weekend recap show that we have started doing at the end of every series this year. This one was a little bit tough sledding for the Rebels going up to Knoxville, ended up getting run ruled twice, but in the grand scheme of things, Hitch, this was a very good Tennessee ball club at a very tough place to play. Tennessee was 16-0 coming into the weekend, playing at home, like we pointed out in our podcast earlier in the week. Rebels ended up taking one. Me, you, and Chad all said that had to be the goal going into this weekend. You won the series against South Carolina, took 2 out of 3, go on the road and take one, get to 3-3 by the time you come back home to face Kentucky next weekend.
Yeah, snapped a winning streak there for Tennessee at home, I believe. But this is the first weekend that I've had the ability where I could sit down for all 3 games and just watch every single pitch. And I pretty much did that. That Tennessee offense is something else. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, it really is, and they're a whole different animal at home too. They really swing it well, playing in Knoxville like they did this past weekend. But that's part of it. That's life in the SEC. We don't have any breaks in this schedule, so you've got to go in there and you've got to play your best. And again, the goal this weekend was to take one, and we did. Didn't get off to a very good start here on Friday night. Had Gunnar Dennis going for us, and he really struggled obviously in that Friday night game, only going 3 2/3, giving up 10 earned with 5 strikeouts. If there was one silver lining at all, I was kind of impressed he even made it through 3 2/3 with the way that they came out of the gate swinging on him like that. But again, that's just kind of the way it is when you play up there.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that Gunnar had the right game plan going into it, as we'll talk about a little bit later. But he, was trying to attack in on the hands and with the fastball up. And with his off speed, down and away to right-handers, he couldn't get it down. You could see the first turn through the lineup. He had 4 or 5 strikeouts.
Pitched pretty well there the first time through.
Through that first turn, but it really seemed like, and you'll probably hear me say this a lot throughout the next 30 minutes, but it seemed like after that first turn through the lineup, every swing that Tennessee took was with absolute purpose, and the purpose was to hit it on the other side of the fence. They picked up on something, they saw something, and when Gunnar elevated those change-ups out of the middle of the plate, they really hurt him. But like you said, he did eat 3 2/3 inning, not having his best stuff. Had 5 strikeouts, didn't put anybody on, right? Didn't walk any guys, and so that's if we're looking for positives, there's a big one there.
Yeah, and it was kind of frustrating Friday night because that big second inning where Tennessee ended up scoring 5 runs, ended up hitting 2 homers there. Really, he was 1 pitch away from getting out of that thing completely unscathed, right? If he makes 1 pitch there in the second inning, he's able to get out of that, and that obviously didn't happen. Wasn't able to get that 1 big pitch in and get out of that thing. Then it ended up snowballing on him. Give up 5 in the second, come back out, give up 3 in the third, and then the other 2 there in the fourth when they brought him back out for it. And at that point, people say, well, why don't you go ahead and pull him? He's already given up 8 runs. Well, I mean, when you've already given up 8 runs through 3 innings, at that point, it's time for the Friday night guy to be a Friday night guy and save your bullpen. And that's what we were trying to do there. It didn't quite work out the way we wanted to, obviously. Kyler Carmack comes in, gives you a little over an inning, pitches pretty well. Only 1 hit and 1 earned run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. And then Galley comes in, 1/3 of an inning, and he has such electric stuff, but he really struggles to locate it, and that was kind of his big thing there that got him in trouble. And then Ryan Rodriguez came in and ended up getting the last 2 outs there to get us out of there while saving the bullpen, which ended up being a pretty big deal as this series ended up going on, right?
Oh, for sure. And my big thing on Friday night is with Gunnar, you were saying, why not take him out? At that point in the game, I don't know that it mattered. what happened, because AJ Causey was so filthy. We ended up getting to him a little bit and getting a couple of runs off of him. But, man, to me on Friday night there were two stories, and none of them really involved Ole Miss. It was AJ Causey and what I saw with his stuff on the mound, and the Tennessee offense and just how electric it was. But, man, I can't overstate how much I was impressed by the movement on the arm side run on AJ Causey's fastball.
Yeah. Causey was dominant all game long. We never really stood a chance. Like I said, ended up getting 3 runs against him there, but he strikes out 6 and 5 2/3. They end up going to the bullpen, completely shutting us down the rest of the way there. Quick shout out on the Rebel side, Braden Randall, first career home run there on Friday night. I thought he played really well all weekend. He ends up going 1 for 2 that game with the home run and 2 RBIs. Rebels just really never got a whole lot started. Now, you love to see Will Furnace with 2 doubles there in that Friday night game too, though, right? Like he really seems to be getting things going, and then Andrew Fisher with 2 hits as well.
That's just what I was fixing to say as I glanced up here. I said Furnace, or I saw Furnace with 2 doubles, and I remembered him getting, it was a double down the left field line, double down the right field line, and I was going to correct myself and say AJ Causey was great, except for Will Furnace seemed to be seeing the ball pretty well, off of him. So
yeah, and that wouldn't be the last time that Will ended up seeing the ball well this weekend. But as far as Friday night goes, from an Ole Miss standpoint, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, Gunner didn't have his best stuff. We're going to circle back to Gunner here in just a minute. Once we get into this Saturday games, I think there is a conversation to be had there. But look, Doyle Day, man, like it's becoming a real thing. It's the new Doug Day, right? Liam Doyle has burst onto the scene here. Shout out to this podcast for being all over it, even in the preseason, and more specifically to my main man Hitch, because Hitch said he should have been in the starting rotation before this season ever got started, and he's making you look pretty good right now. Doyle was absolutely incredible for us on Saturday.
Yeah, no, making me feel like $1 million, right? Because I'm finally right on something. Right? That's the first thing I told my wife. I couldn't wait to tell her. I was like, "Hey, I'm right about something." But I mean, I could just, when you watch him pitch, it just clicks with me. Of how he pitches, how he attacks hitters, what he's and he's not just throwing, he's pitching. Like I said earlier, Tennessee's swinging with a purpose. He's pitching with a purpose. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's going to do 2 pitches from now, and that's why he's throwing this pitch, because he's setting that one up, right? And so you can just tell that that's what's going through his head. And I mean, what he did on Saturday, right, is so much more impressive when you think about the cookies of this Oreo, right? The Friday game and the Sunday game. How those went, and how Tennessee's offense just kind of feasted on the other pitchers, which makes what Liam Doyle did on Saturday that much more impressive.
Yeah, and if nothing else, I think Liam Doyle has at least given a blueprint on how to attack this Tennessee offense. Now, the problem is you have to have the arm to be able to do it, right? And Liam absolutely has that. Really pounded them with a lot of fastballs. Tied them up inside on the hands, and then worked away with the off-speed stuff. It was really the same formula we talked about with Gunner, what he was trying to do, and Gunner was executing it, but he obviously doesn't have an arm like Liam does. Liam ends up going 6 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned, only 1 walk to 10 strikeouts. Absolutely dominant. And really, he shouldn't have even given up all 3 of those runs. We had that botched double play there that ended up getting those last couple in. But if I'm not mistaken, we were up 4-1 or 4-2 whenever he come out of it. 4-2 when you come out of the game. Yeah. So really good job by Liam, though. The fastball is so impressive, especially now. Me and you kind of exchanged a couple texts there Saturday night. He's consistently sitting 94 to 96 now, where he was that kind of the lower 90s, 92, right?
I know. Like the first inning, I wasn't really paying attention to the miles per hour because I'd gotten used to it being where it was. And then I heard the guy from Western Carolina, whoever was in the booth, I heard him say 94, and I thought, oh, he's reaching back for some. And then I heard him say 95, and I thought, geez, okay, here we are. All right, man, here, I like it. But, even though he gave up those runs, I think that the first home run that he gave up, I want to say that it was a pretty good pitch, but the kid just did an unbelievable job of hitting, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So, I mean, even some of the runs he gave up, right, were he did what he was trying to do. He just got beat that time. So, but great job by Liam Doyle on Saturday. He really put a stamp on what he's been able to do leading up to this, right? He's been pretty good. He's been pretty good. He's been pretty good. Been really good. But who's he pitched against last week against South Carolina? Okay, SEC caliber. He was really good. And then this week against the Tennessee defense, I mean, how can you not say he's the guy?
Yeah. He's absolutely the guy. And Inslee's the guy that hit that home run. I agree. I thought he made a really good pitch to him there. But look, these guys score 10.5 runs per game at home. I mean, this is an offense that just scores. And, it's kind of weird that it happens at home the way it does. But whatever. I'm not going to go back to 2 years ago right now.
Yeah, it's just when you think about it, it's a bad matchup on paper for Ole Miss. Right. Like, I mean, not even so much as Tennessee is a better baseball team than us, which I think that they probably are right now. But it's the fact that we hit on this every week. We don't walk people. We don't walk people. We throw it in the strike zone. Tennessee goes up there. They don't take 2 strike cuts at all. They go up there. They swing as hard as they can, and they swing in the zone. And if the ball is thrown in the zone, they're gonna hit it a long way. And so that kind of doesn't bode well for this pitching staff that throws a lot of pitches in the zone.
Yeah, that and they're not a team that walks a whole lot either. Like, that kind of goes to that point as well. When the ball's in the zone or out of the zone, they're sitting there trying to hammer it, and that's what they did against the Rebels on Friday and Saturday. Liam Doyle filled up the zone, and his stuff was so good that it didn't matter. Was able to really give the Rebels some length and a really, really good start here on Saturday. And it's a real shame that he wasn't able to get a win. You bring Mallets in. Mallets pitched pretty well, goes an inning in the third, 2 hits, 1 run, no strikeouts and 2 walks, and had that real funky missed double play, whatever you want. I thought it was a line drive initially.
I did too.
I didn't know what was going on as the play was playing out. And then the throw ends up getting away from Jackson Ross, and they end up tying the game there, and eventually end up taking the lead as well with that bad throw. And the Rebels were down 1 heading into the 9th inning, and boy, what a fun inning that was.
We've talked a lot about the Tennessee offense and things, but about the Rebel offense here, because they really answered the bell.
Andrew Fisher in the first inning ends up hitting one over the scoreboard, and then you get Braden Randall with another home run here, his second career home run in the third, and then Andrew Fisher goes and hits a second one over the scoreboard here in the 6th, and then we get into this 9th inning, and it was a heck of a lot of fun here watching this 9th inning. You get Udermark in as a pinch runner there at first base. We ended up bunting him over with Braden Randall to get him in scoring position. And then Jackson Ross comes up and just lasers a double into the right center field gap there to score him. And then all of a sudden the Rebels are off to the races a little bit. Rolf comes up and he has a single through the left side, scores 2 to give us the lead, go up 7-5. And I thought this was a really crucial point. It was obviously nice to tie it up, better to get the lead, but we're still sitting there with the guy on third and less than 2 outs. And our guy, Trayson Hughes, comes up and just puts together a professional at bat. He grounds out, but gets the runner home to give the Rebels that 3-run lead, which I thought was huge at that point.
Yeah, no, that was a big at bat, and maybe the biggest at bat of the inning was the first at bat. Bo Gatlin, I had a great at bat to even get on base. I think he was 0-2, 1-2 to begin the at bat, and he battled all the way back to get that walk. And when Udermark went in to run for Gatlin, my first thought was, okay, he's stealing second base. But we bunted him over it, and it worked out. Great bunt, by
fantastic.
Was it Braden Randall? Randall laid that down, right? I mean, how many times in a game you see somebody hit a bomb and lay down a bunt, right?
Turnaround bunt,
pretty good bunt he laid down. Leger walks, and I'm not going to go through everything you just said, but I think up and down the lineup that ninth inning was just filled with great at bats.
Yeah, and just so y'all know how hot Andrew Fisher is, he got up in the ninth inning there, and they walked him to load the bases for Ethan Leger, who leads the Ole Miss in almost every single hitting category besides home runs right now. But that's how well he was seeing the ball Saturday. They didn't want nothing to do with him, and they got to Leger.
If you want to see how a left-handed batter should swing the bat, like if your son is wanting to play baseball and he is a young kid, you want him to hit left-handed, go tell him to watch the Andrew Fisher's first at bat on Friday night and mimic that swing, because that the only thing I thought was, my God, Andrew.
Yeah, he absolutely crushed that one. Like we said, he ended up hitting 2 out on Saturday there. Braden Randall got 1, and then the Jackson Ross double there as well. Rebels ran wild there on Saturday too. They really had it clicking on all cylinders. Leger, Groff, and Trayson Hughes all end up stealing bases.
They had those guys. On the lineup. They had that had to have been in the scouting report, that they were slow to the plate because they were or slow to the plate and not good at holding guys on because they were running. Yep. The pitcher they had in there on Saturday, I think he had a 1-5 to the plate, something like that, and then something normal is about 1-3 if you're going to have a chance to throw a runner out there. So you got a bit above that. You got to think 1-5 to the plate, and then a catcher from the plate to second. I think a good one is 1-7. So 3 seconds is total. And so that's going to be tough to throw guys out.
Yeah, and then if you get a good jump on top of that. So anyway. One thing that I think we do need to mention is Eli Birch ended up throwing out another runner this weekend. I Bleav that was on Friday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But anyway, he seems to really be coming around behind the plate defensively for us. Now, he only started 1 game this weekend when we thought that it looked like he had a stranglehold on this catcher position, right? But look, Smithwick's a young guy. He got in there, got 2 of the starts this weekend. Now, we did end up bringing Birch in there late in the game on Saturday when things were a little bit in doubt, trying to close it out. And so you just get your best defenders in there, and I think that's clearly Birch behind the plate. That's what we did, but one hell of a game, and one the Rebels actually had to have on Saturday because the way things ended up playing out, it was going to hurt one way or another, but it would have been absolutely crushing if we were not able to come back on Saturday and get that one.
Yeah, because of the way that Liam Doyle pitched and just, how we battled all day with counts, working 3-ball counts and getting, 2-out hits and things like that. That would have been tough, especially coming off of the game on Friday night, when it's a fairly rare occurrence when a Friday night game is a run rule game,
And again, with it being bookended with the run rule on Friday and what ended up being a run rule here on Sunday as we're recording now after the game, and Rebels ended up dropping that one 15-4, so almost identical to the score on Friday night. And then
Udermark hit a bomb in the ninth.
Yeah. You had bombs by Udermark and Jackson Ross there. The Jackson Ross one, it kind of felt like that could have possibly gotten us back in the game a little bit, but that ended up not being the way that ended up working. But Saunier really struggled here, 2 2/3, absolutely lived in the zone, and kind of to your point just a minute ago, living in the zone is a good thing. You don't want to walk guys, but this Tennessee offense in that stadium in particular absolutely crushes anything that is in the zone. And that's what happened on Sunday with Saunier.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all about, with a team like this, an offense that swings the way that they do 1 through 9, it's all about location. And, you know, if you're missing location, they're not going to miss. And we saw that a couple of times. Oh, well, we saw it all weekend, right? But they hit, 10 or 12 home runs this weekend?
Yeah, 10, I think.
You know, all together. Yeah, so it was a pretty impressive offensive display on Sunday.
Yeah, and so one thing I want to dive into right here, just a little conversation about the bullpen. Obviously, the bullpen has been the strength of this team so far this year. Sunday, that wasn't the case. You had Wes Mendez give up 3 runs, Mason Morris give up 3 runs, Mason Nichols give up 2 runs. So that's 8 runs between those 3 before Braden Jones came in for the final inning in the third of perfect baseball there. Braden Jones obviously been really good. But look, these other guys have been really good too. You know, this isn't an indictment on the bullpen. They're allowed 1 bad day out of, you know, the last, hell, what's it been? Probably 7, 8 games. Hell, maybe even more than that since we've had anything remotely resembling this. Obviously, the worst of the year for the bullpen here. So that's, you know, obviously not worried about the bullpen. One thing that I do want to bring up here, Hitch, and you might agree, disagree, you're certainly you can do whatever you want to with it. Why not Sam Takuian to follow Grayson Saunier here, a guy that has been dynamite for us in the limited action he's had? He hasn't even given up a hit so far this year in his limited action. I know he hasn't played just a whole lot, and he's not going to go all year without allowing a run. I thought this was a great spot to get Sam some work in the SEC in particular.
Yeah, I thought either here or Friday night after Gunnar did it, right? Like here makes a lot of sense because we come out and Jackson Ross hits that bomb at 7-3, right? And in my mind, Sam is a stopper, right? He hasn't given up a hit. He continues.
7 strikeouts, 1 walk in 4 innings, I think, something like that on the year.
And I think you know, maybe I'm misremembering, but I mean he can go multiple innings. I don't think he's just a 1 inning guy, and so it is a little, I don't know, strange that we didn't see him all weekend. But yeah, I agree. I would have gone with Sam here after Saunier. You know, but again, with the way Tennessee swings the bat, it may not have even mattered. Who knows?
No, it wouldn't have mattered as far as the outcome of the game, but I think it would have been important to get him some work against an SEC opponent. I don't mind Wes Mendez and Mason Morris, those 2 in particular, getting a little bit of work in. Those are 2 guys that I've been high on all year long. They pitched really well. They just ran into a buzzsaw here in Knoxville on Sunday. Now, the Mason Nichols, that's the one where I can point to and go, okay, that for sure should have been a Sam Takuian spot, I would think. But again, I'm not in the locker room. As far as I know, there's nothing wrong with Sam, but you know there could be some little thing where they don't want to risk an injury or something like that. If maybe he's, you know, feeling something in his arm, stiffness, something like that.
Sure.
Not saying he is, but not saying he isn't either. I have no idea. But, you know, we'll kind of keep monitoring that. I think Sam's a guy that needs to start. I
mean, we definitely need to start seeing, you know, more of Sam. And I was a little surprised because I got up to go to the kitchen when they made the change there. And I looked and I thought, that's number 45 running out there. I was like, that looks like Mason Nichols. I was like, he just pitched.
I said the same thing.
Yeah. And, you know, like you said, I mean, he's a guy that we know can pitch multiple times on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with him running him out there. I was just surprised, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you know, we have a small interruption here. Go ahead and tell him.
Hi, my name is Vaught.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
Yes. This is Vaught. He wanted to come in and say hey while I was recording. So there you go, bud. All right.
Now you're famous.
I like I watched Aiden's number war
I know, buddy.
because I am.
Let me finish up, bud. All right. So he likes the Aiden's number lore. We love Ole Miss baseball, to each their own.
Oh yeah.
So
obviously.
yeah. But yeah, I thought that would have been a good spot for Sam. Mason's a guy that we've obviously seen pitch multiple times on the weekend before in his career. So it's not one of those things where we were wondering if he could do it. So that was just one thing I wanted to point out. I thought that was an interesting choice there, bringing him in. And look, that was a stop the bleeding moment. So Mason's definitely a guy that can do that. I would just love to see a guy like Sam Takui and get those kind of opportunities to stop the bleeding himself, because I think he is fully capable of doing that and getting into a little bit bigger role in this bullpen, which is obviously very crowded with a lot of different guys. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
Didn't see Austin Simmons this weekend either.
Yeah,
that.
Correct. Yeah, there's that was another guy. But again, Sunday didn't go our way. Obviously, we ended up losing 15-4, and dropping the series. What?
Can't hear you.
Okay, you're fine. So anyway, Rebels end up dropping the series and lose 15-4 on Sunday. We dropped two. There in Knoxville. But again, that's what we thought we needed to do. We needed to go in and get at least one. The Rebels were able to get one. Kind of looking ahead a little bit here, Austin P is the opponent for Tuesday night at 6:30.
Yep. And then Kentucky.
Then we have Kentucky comes into Oxford for our next SEC series there. So kind of a look around the SEC from this past weekend. We had real good news for the Rebels with that South Carolina victory last weekend. They go and sweep Vanderbilt, which is only going to help the Rebels because we don't play Vanderbilt this year. So it was nice to see South Carolina go get 3 against them, albeit in Columbia.
Yeah. That's only going to help the Rebels in the long run, like you said, because of the weekend we had last weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then kind of a surprising when Georgia bounces back from getting swept in Lexington, and they're playing in Athens, and they come up and sweep Alabama. This kind of shows you how hard it is to play in the SEC on the road, Hitch. Georgia, a pretty good team, but they just go to Lexington and get swept, come back home, and they sweep the number 11 team in the country. South Carolina comes to Oxford, loses 2 out of 3 in Oxford. And then and then they go back home for the number 3 team in the country, Vanderbilt, and they end up sweeping them. This thing is just an absolute bear on the road. The only 2 teams off the top of my head, you can correct me if I'm wrong. No, there were 3. Kentucky won 2 out of 3 in Columbia, Missouri. Then Florida won a series in Baton Rouge, and Mississippi State's playing really good. And then State ends up taking the series in College Station. Mississippi State's playing really well right now as well.
Yeah, they are. And man, I'm every time I hear Arkansas and Hagen Smith, I think, I don't want to face him.
Yeah. Well, that's coming up here in just a couple of weeks with the Rebels heading to Fayetteville. So we'll definitely get our shot at Hagen Smith. All right. So before we get out of here, I wanted to have a conversation about what do you do on Friday night? Do you move Liam Doyle to Friday night and bump Gunnar Dennis back? What do you do with this rotation after what you saw this weekend?
Selfishly, I move Liam Doyle to Friday night. But if I'm Coach Bianco, probably what I do is I ask Liam, like, okay, do you want to go on Friday night? Are you more comfortable on Saturday? And kind of go with it that way. But I mean, I think he deserves the shot at Friday night if that's what he wants to do.
I would be shocked if that's something that he didn't want to do. Seems like an ultra competitive guy. You kind of saw the fire come out of him a little bit there Saturday too, coming off the mound right after the strikeouts. He was really, really feeling himself. I think the one interesting part of this conversation would be, do you leave him on Saturday because of how big of an advantage you have with a guy like Liam Doyle against whoever the SEC Saturday starter for the team you're playing is? So I think that's an interesting dynamic that that you kind of have to take into consideration. If it's me, I move Liam to Friday because you don't want to sit here and try to, basically back end every single series. You want to get off on the right foot, put your best foot forward, get Liam out there, get him his experience on Friday nights. I think he's obviously the guy for that role.
Yeah, and I mean it's a fine line that you're walking there because you don't want to give the impression that we are giving up on Friday night because we're saving our best pitcher for Saturday. But at the same time, you have to analytics are such a big deal, and you have to make the smart move. And if it makes sense that if you're going up against Hagen Smith on Friday night, chances are probably not going to get a lot of hits, maybe not get a lot of runs. Why not save Liam Doyle until Saturday to face a guy that we may score a bunch of runs off of, and he shuts the Arkansas offense down. It's the reason that I'm not a coach because I can't make decisions like that. But it is an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, and I've got a feeling I know the way it's going to go because if it's ever mentioned to Liam Doyle, he's going to say that he can go up there and go pitch for pitch with Hagen Smith on Friday nights or any other starter in this league. And
that's what I hope he says. Right?
Well,
that's what I want him to say.
Yeah, and look, from what we've seen so far through 2 SEC starts, he can go up there and he can pitch with anybody. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as the season progresses there, and if he ends up getting bumped to that Friday night role.
Yeah, I would be fine with that.
Yeah, me too. So. All right, well, we will go ahead and wrap it up there. We will obviously talk to y'all later on in the week as we get ready for Kentucky to come in to Oxford for another SEC series. And, the Rebels need to at least get 2 in this one. That's what you need to do. You've got to take 2 at home, and you can't get swept on the road. If you do that all year long and end up 15-15, you're going to find yourself in the tournament basically guaranteed. So that's always the goal. Obviously, if you get a sweep, then that's fantastic. But that's something we will talk about later on in the week when we record our regular show. So y'all be on the lookout for that. But this weekend, just real quick, obviously shout out to Liam Doyle, incredible performance. Andrew Fisher, an incredible weekend up there in Knoxville. Braden Randall. I think those are the 3 guys to really highlight from this past weekend in Knoxville. I thought Trayson Hughes had some good at-bats for us. Obviously had that big one Saturday, getting that 3rd run in. And a guy we haven't brought up that I do want to bring up real quick, it seemed like Luke Hill hit the ball hard 9 times out of 10, and 7 of those 9 times ended up being right at somebody. Those are going to end up finding holes, and I think Luke's going to be fine as long as he keeps going up there and hitting the ball hard like he did.
Yeah, he made the mistake of hitting it to the left side of the infield a couple of times. Billy Amick is maybe the smoothest infielder I've ever seen. Oh my God. I mean, he made 2 bare-hand plays that just made it look like he was Nolan Arenado out there. It was crazy. But, yeah, you're right. Luke Hill did hit a bunch of balls hard, and went deep in some counts. It won't be long before he's, raising that average some because those are going to find holes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, well, that's something we'll keep an eye on next week. Again, we've got Austin Peay 6:30 on Tuesday night. And we will talk to y'all guys next week. Hitch, as always, appreciate you joining me here. Hi, Toddy.
I love it. See you. Hi, Toddy.